It's tourney time, and BetRivers Sportsbook has your game day covered with a mystery offer. Head over to BetRivers.com today. Buzzer beater insurance, profit boost, parlay insurance, and more specials are waiting for you every day of the tournament. All you have to do is log into BetRivers today on any tourney game day and see your Mystery Madness special. Go to BetRivers and get rewarded all tournament long. Go to BetRivers.com today or download the BetRivers app. Your hometown sportsbook, BetRivers Sportsbook, BetRivers.com. 21 and located in Indiana. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. 1-800-994-8448.
Make your life better with a new job at UPS. Join Team Louisville as a warehouse worker. Earn $14.50 per hour in an essential job, plus get money for college. Search and apply now at upsjobs.com/Louisville. That's upsjobs.com/Louisville.
You're listening to The Diener Show, presented by OPC Pest Services on ESPN 680, 105.7, and 93.9 The Ville. Now, here's Mark Blankenbaker.
And Biggest Biscuit, also known as Dave Skull.
Welcome back to the Diener Show. Mark Blankenbaker, Dave Skull. We got process running the board. And to address a competitive hiring climate in the Louisville area, UPS will offer a retention and attendance bonus in 2021. Starting pay is $14.50 an hour. That's starting pay, okay? Employees on select shifts will also receive an additional $300 a weekly attendance bonus, and you can learn how to graduate debt-free. If you're going to go to U of L or JCC or anywhere nearby and you want to go to college and have it paid for, UPS Jobs is a program for you. UPS is also offering a $100 attendance Sunday bonus for all employees that have a Sunday through Sunday or Thursday work week. So you can just get an extra $100 for showing up on Sunday, and they're offering a $75 bonus for all night shift employees, not including the $100. So if an employee works nights on Sunday through Thursday, their weekly bonus is $175. Visit upsjobskentucky.com for more information. Today is Louisville's Pro Day over here, at Cardinal Stadium here at about at 11 o'clock. It's going to be interesting, and obviously Tutu Atwell's had a lot of draft buzz. Jared Goldwire's got a little draft buzz. Dorian Etheridge, I think, has to show some things. But you've got Javian Hawkins, who's left school early. Des Fitzpatrick will be out there. So a big day for some of these guys. And, everybody. But I'm always sort of curious about pro days. Because, Lamar Jackson's pro day was panned. And then he was an NFL MVP.
Yeah.
And
Teddy's was, too.
That's right. He had small hands, but then Johnny Manziel had smaller hands. And
didn't they? They convinced him not to wear the gloves or to wear the gloves.
Something about the gloves. Yeah.
Forgot. You never know what to. There's certain things that you can glean from pro days. If they do the Zach Wilson. Good Lord, if he got any more praise from the other day.
Oh gosh.
Rolling right, throws off his back foot. This and that. There's only so much you can glean from pro days. It's set up for the player to succeed. You don't have a defense. They're running routes in perfect conditions.
Yeah.
It's there for them to shine. It's a controlled environment.
Yeah.
The one thing with this, a lot of times with the pro days, the guys that aren't, and this is a different year anyway, but the guys that aren't invited to the NFL Combine, it's good to get their measurables on the board.
Right. Chris Johnson got drafted out of Louisville because of
he
his
ran a 4.2.
It was I think it was 4.17 is what it was. He actually had a tattoo, and he didn't really play at Louisville.
Was it 4.17 or 4.19? I think
4.19.
It was
4.1 something.
It was sub 4.2.
Yeah.
And he was a backup at U of L, for the most part.
And he started some years for the Baltimore Ravens, and he was a good special teams player.
Too.
Yeah, but but that's a good example of the NFL finds a freak athlete, and the coaches at Louisville knew that he was fast, but they felt like they could invest in his speed, and he wasn't a superstar or anything like that, but he was clearly worthy of the NFL, and they wouldn't have found it without the pro day.
Yeah.
So we're going to have like I mentioned, Javian Hawkins, Des Fitzpatrick, Tutu Atwell, Ian Pfeiffer, Marlon Character, Isaiah Hayes, Jared Goldwire, Dorian Etheridge, and Rajay Burns, in addition to some guys from last year. So the NFL, obviously, their draft process was a lot different a year ago. So you got some 2019 guys that missed out on the NFL and the NFL Combine. Jordan Davis, Devontae Pete, TJ McCoy, Mason King, Blanton Creaky, Kane Pass, Cornelius Sturgill, Amante Caban, and Gary McCray are going to be out there today, trying to draw the eye of professional football players. And, of the guys that are coming back from 2019, I don't know who I would like. I think the best chance guy of those
special teams guys,
probably
honestly.
like Kane Pass, because he's got size, he's fast. Maybe I don't know what he's done in the past year, of course. Like, I have no idea. But I think that the guys that are coming out of 2021, clearly everybody's going to want to see Tutu, Dez, Javian.
Those three are getting drafted for sure.
Yeah.
And they're all probably getting drafted in the top 4 rounds. Javian, Tutu's starting to get some first, second round buzz. Dez had a great senior bowl week. Javian is going to be a fit thing. I mean, the small backs are in vogue right now.
I mean, 49ers love backs like him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Carolina Panthers took a spot with him, because he's not a pass catcher like Christian
Right.
McCaffrey has been, but they did a little bit more of that. McCaffrey? What did I say?
McCaffrey.
McCaffrey. Excuse me. Thank you for not letting me get away with that.
Look,
Thank you for letting... No, because I'm serious. Like yesterday, Jeff let Perrin get away with Loyola Chicago.
Oh, come on. Don't make fun of Perrin.
No, I'm saying you
fun
got to
of him.
make... Like if I say McAfee, you got to call me out.
Loyola and
that way I don't
Loyola
say-
are not that far off. McAfee and McCaffrey they're not the same thing.
Loyola is hilarious.
It's a pronunciation issue. Now,
Well, so is McCaffrey.
I'm
I
being
mean,
blown up to mention that it's on that the pro day is on ACC Extra and not on the ACC Network.
I mean, yeah. That's from Andy.
Yes,
For sure.
I mean, do you
know.
have any
I'm
comments
getting
towards that?
Blown up. I mean, I don't know. What do you want me to say? I'm not in charge of programming. If they had Teddy Bridgewater or Lamar Jackson or somebody like that, it would be on the ACC Network or the NFL Network, like it was for Lamar Jackson.
don't get too spun up on that point.
But
Buddy.
the NFL did tweet. The NFL Twitter account at NFL tweeted that Louisville's football pro day is tomorrow, and they've included highlights of Lamar Jackson's pro day. And I don't know. Like, do I need to see Javian Hawkins and Des Fitzpatrick and Tutu Atwell on the ACC Network? I don't. I'm gonna go out there. But like, if you want to go out there, if you want to watch the pro day, you have that ability on ACC Network Extra.
The look on your face is hilarious. You're so perturbed by this.
I don't care what channel it's on. We play on Fox Sports South, and I don't, and I'm like going around bars and stuff like that trying to find.
I beg
freaking
you, don't get
games.
too spun up.
I'm not. I'm not. But they're going to run the 40-yard dash at 11, and we'll see how it turns out. I also think like Goldwire, he didn't play great until later in the year. Maybe he draws an eye. Somebody brings him into camp, undrafted, I think.
Maybe I'd be interested to see what his fit is in the NFL. I mean, he's a big body. He's not.
Rajay's interesting too.
Rajay, here's the thing with our linebacking core and the way we've run our defense the last couple of years. We've got some smaller, faster backs, backers like Rajay. Dorian's a quicker, lighter on the lighter side linebacker.
I wonder if he's fast enough though.
I know to be that size. It's all about fit. I think Rajay is.
Yeah.
I wonder. I think my instinct is that Rajay could find his way onto a roster. I don't think he's going to get drafted.
I think the
he has
same.
a big pro day, but
Marlon Character's the same.
Yeah.
Like guys that might get taken 6th, 7th round, but are probably more likely to get undrafted, signed as free agents, get a chance in a camp, and then that's really
honestly,
about being healthy and whether or not you fit that group and also play the game. Like if you go in and you're a good teammate, a lot of times coaches will advocate for you. Like, look, we got too many safeties. I gotta let you go, but I know the Philadelphia Eagles, they're not in our division. I'll send them over there.
Right.
Like I'll make a suggestion or something like that.
They can advocate for you, but they only go so far, man.
It will.
I mean, being a good guy and a good
That's why you need to have an agent.
So far
but
in the NFL.
It's not good if you're a, if you're not a good teammate or if you're like a I don't know. I'm trying to figure out.
They get blackballed.
If you're an
if you're a bleep head.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're thinking.
You can be an AH.
To quote Patty Icy, if you're a bleep head,
Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
that guy
we'll put
says
it this
bleep
way.
more
Let's
than
put it
anybody
this
I
way.
know. It's amazing.
If Lynn Bowden was not good, if you acted like him, then you would get blackballed and they would not advocate for it.
It can be much more of a detriment than a positive for me. Like if you have character issues, it's going to shorten your NFL career more than being a good guy can lengthen it. I'll put it that way.
Right.
At the end of the day, if you can play, you can play. If you can't, you can't. And being a nice guy isn't going to do much for you. The name that I will be looking at, honestly, more than anybody else outside the top three, is Ian Pfeiffer, because he's the type of guy. He's a big body. He started out as an offensive lineman at Vandy. He's got the blocking chops to be an NFL tight end, like
all he caught was touchdowns.
And then he flexed himself as a pass catcher at times this year. Like you said, all he did was his first 4 catches of his career were all touchdowns.
It was unreal. And he dropped one.
If you could
he was like so mad.
Right. But as a tight end, like obviously they're going towards, lean pass catching tight ends in the NFL, but if you can block, there's always going to be a place for you in the pros if you're an elite blocker.
He's interesting. Position. I think he might be a little too old. I think that they're going to look at him. They're going to say
he's definitely
25,
old.
26.
I wanted 7th year.
Hayden Hurst got drafted as
I wanted 7th year.
He was 25, 26. Brandon Weeden was 28 when he got drafted. He was in the first round. I mean, he's not a first round talent, but
right.
I mean,
but it did happen.
It's possible.
Yeah,
Chris Winkie.
Yeah, well.
It's just. if you're going to mention Brandon Weeden, you should should mention.
Chris Winkie was on Hightower Men's Clinic when he got drafted, but it was unbelievable.
He had a whole ass minor league baseball career before he went. A
couple texts I'll read.
College football.
The women will have more people in the Yum next year if things don't change. Any reaction? Okay, they should.
I mean, you don't have any reaction to that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying they will. But I am saying I've noticed that women's basketball has definitely blown up because men's basketball hasn't been, to the second weekend in 6 years, and women's basketball has. I mean, right now it's being talked about a lot more because the men are not playing in the tournament at all. So I think there's a crease there that women are definitely taking some of that play.
I don't think women's basketball being successful affects the men's attendance. I'll put it that way. They do get talked about more when they're the only show in town. That's just natural. Mm-hmm. But I think it's. I think people are overestimating. Like I know that people are down on Chris Max.
Has expanded
for sure,
but it's not to the level of the men yet. So maybe it can.
I think people are being. I realize that we're down on Chris Mack's program right now, but bad Louisville men's basketball attendance is still
they'll still draw more,
but it's still elite in the country, even when we're not drawing like we normally do. And I love our women's program, and it's incredible what Jeff's done with promotion of the program. We regularly draw better than everybody but 2 programs essentially in the country. We get 10,000 fans on the regular in the Yum Center. It's great. I hate comparing the programs all the time. It's a big pet peeve of mine because it's like women's basketball can't be talked about unless you're comparing it to the men.
No,
and it I think it does a disservice. I
agree with you
to the sport, but I don't think that the success of the men's program and the women's program are necessarily that tied to each other as far as attendance wise.
We had a couple other texts here about the placement of where Howard Schnellenberger's statue should be, and to me, party deck. Like right next to Johnny U.
Party.
I mean, you just put him right up there, have him standing there, have the pipe.
You don't put him at an entrance?
Well, I mean, you could, but
I've long advocated to have like a
monument row,
a monument park, kind of like Yankee Stadium up there on the,
that's the
party deck.
It won't be.
I said kind of like the Yankees, where you put statues up on party deck.
Now, people, process does bring up a good idea though, because Louisville did last year, if people don't remember, they tore down that Cardinal Authentic store to kind of make a larger entrance for people to come in for COVID. And the plan is to create a more, a more main entrance. And so what you'll need to do there is to have something to be like, to market as this is where you enter for Cardinal football. Could it be a Howard Schnellenberger statue? Could it be a Lamar Jackson or Teddy Bridgewater or Tom Jackson? I don't know. But, like, there are some people that probably need to get statues. And, look, we need to honor, like, a Brian Brom and a Michael Bush. And, we got some guys that that need to be honored. That
we can start with honoring the jerseys that need to be honored.
Yes,
and then we can move on to the
statues.
I mean, obviously, it begs for a Howard statue with his most famous quote. In relation to Louisville football, we are on a collision course with the national championship. The only variable is time. On the placard.
Yep.
And just it begs for it. And hopefully something like that'll happen one day. And Denny, obviously, I feel like, can they not have a Denny Crum statue in front of his dormitory?
Or in front of the Yum Center? What's wrong with that? I mean,
but it's even easier for us to get it done in front of the dormitory across from the press facility.
We don't need the city's permission or the state's permission or anything like that.
The state fair board doesn't have to be involved.
We can just go and just put Denny Crum up over there. But
you've got other things going on with Yum Center.
Sure.
There will be,
like that.
But I'm saying there will be state fair board. There's other hurdles you have to clear to build, statues down on the riverfront. But on campus, we can do whatever we want.
We can do whatever we
make
want
it
to.
happen.
Start with Howard and start with Lamar. Those are the two you probably need to start with.
I don't know. I think you got to do Denny and Howard and then Lamar. But that's a whole other conversation. I don't think it's the order in which, as long as it gets done, I'm okay with. Plumber Chuck wants to weigh in. Plumber Chuck, welcome into the Diener Show.
What's going on? Morning, guys.
What's going on?
Morning, buddy.
We're gonna keep this rolling like with Drew being here. The women's basketball is never going to draw what the men draw, and it's probably that text is probably coming from the same 6 people that call in to Drew's show when he's here about the coverage and stuff. The only thing I'm going to say about the women's basketball right now, there's nothing else going on in Plywood City. If we had baseball, if we had Louisville FC, then yes. The only thing, in my opinion, being an old school fan, that will get women's basketball more energized is an NCAA title. So I'll hang up and get your thoughts on that. Thanks.
Look, like I said, the women's attendance isn't going to challenge the men's attendance, but it's not if literally anything else was going on, that's a reductionist taste. That's
let's get excited
not
about
accurate at all. I mean, people get jazzed about the women's run every single time it happens. We draw as well as any other women's program in the country. We support the women's program in Louisville. Just because people like to project their own feelings about women's basketball, and it's like, no, there's a fair amount of people in this city that follow the women's team no matter what.
That's true.
That's why we draw well.
And
obviously there's other people that are paying attention more because the men's team are, and that's fine. I love it. We take all. I whatever brings more eyes, but to act like there aren't people that go to the games every single year, every single week, week in and week out is false.
This is a big night for Louisville basketball.
But yes, Plumber Chuck is right that they're not going to outdraw the men. I totally agree.
Louisville.
That's not the point. That's not important.
Louisville beat Stanford 2 years ago. Or 3 years ago, excuse me, in the Sweet 16 of the 2018 tournament, beat them by a lot, 86-59. This is a chance for Louisville to go to a Final Four, and it's huge. And if they can do it,
shooting for their 4th Final Four.
I mean, I'll be absolutely through the moon. I probably
through the moon.
All the way through the roof,
through the roof, or over the moon.
Over the moon. Sorry, I mixed my metaphors. I was reading something.
It can be through the moon, baby.
I forgot what I was reading too. We're at 9:00. We'll have that game on Westwood One. You and Chrissy Banna are going to have the post game.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Hopefully you're celebrating a win. Hopefully you're taking calls.
Yeah.
I just remember
we'll be taking calls either way.
Final Four. Louisville gets beat by Mississippi State. That foul happened. That's probably the most mad I've been about any sporting event ever. Men's, women's, football, didn't matter. That was unbelievable. My enthusiasm for that game, you couldn't have told me it was, any level. Men's, women's, didn't care. It was Louisville. I wanted them to go to the Final Four. I thought they were going to win the national championship because they had 2 ACC players of the year. Didn't know they had 3 because Dana Evans was also on that team at the time. Mm-hmm. I thought that was our best shot, and to kind of get robbed like Baylor did last night.
They had 7. Well, if you count Dana, they had 7. I think WNBA draft picks.
Yeah.
If I'm not misremembering.
And Kim Mulkey. Okay, so we talked about Baylor.
Let's hit this real quick.
We talked about Baylor earlier, and we're going to have Dr. Klein on here in about 10 minutes. So we'll kind of lead into this with Dr. Klein. Kim Mulkey said after her loss last night, she was upset about the call, but the main thing that's drawn the most attention is her suggestion that they stop COVID testing for the Final Four. So, and her argument is because we don't want players missing the Final Four because of a positive COVID test. I'll hand it over to you.
All right, so Kim Mulkey is Louisville's favorite coach, right? You know, she lost her mind during the Shoney Schimmel, Brittany Griner incident.
I mean, Muffet McGraw.
Well, Muffet's retired now, so she's kind of taken the mantle. Obviously, Muffet's been public enemy number one, but Kim Mulkey, she has a long history of throwing tantrums and you know, all that good stuff. She was famous a few years ago during the Baylor sex scandal of basically mocking parents who had expressed concerns about sending their young women, daughters, to go to school at Baylor because of the
cover-ups.
And they did, the absolute lack of protection for young women on that campus. It was abhorrent,
in the favor of athletes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And instead of Kim Mulkey maybe standing up for the women on campus, she basically mocked the situation and fervently defended her school at the cost of basically anything.
Right.
And so she decided it was about high time she showed her ass again last night. And after being eliminated, well, granted, she's upset. Very apparent no call. Yeah. Anybody would be upset. We're still angry about Mississippi State 3 years later.
Jeff Walls got suspended for his first NCAA tournament game in whatever was that 2019?
Yeah, it was
because of his reaction. And Kim Mulkey is at the post-game press conference last night saying, I've got 2 still shots and 2 video from 2 angles. One kid hits her in the face and the other kid hits her on the elbow. And she's openly talking about the official. Now, she didn't go chase him after the official like Jeff Walls did. But she's openly talking about officiating.
But
and
look, if
Gina
you keep
Auriemma's
it to
daughter,
that,
too, said it was a foul.
Keep it to that, I wouldn't have anything to say about her this morning.
Right.
But then she decides to make a comment about COVID testing because you could clearly she's been holding this take in.
Yeah.
And just waiting to unleash her wisdom on the world.
We're not changing anything now.
She loses in the Elite Eight. Baylor loses in the Elite Eight, and all of a sudden she's like, you know what? I think it's just about time we stop testing for COVID because it would be a shame if one of these Final Four teams in the men's or women's bracket gets knocked out because they test positive. It's like, look, you're right. It would be a shame, but you seem to not be grasping why we're testing for COVID to begin with.
Right. That's
like it was such a stupid and tone deaf thing to say. It was completely in character for Kim Mulkey.
Yeah,
she's just has the worst possible takes in the worst possible time.
And you know what's weird is that I was actually rooting for Baylor last night
because
of
I.
Dee Richards. And, like she got, paralyzed in the middle of the season and actually played. And she actually
she worked
had
her
a hamstring.
ass off to get back.
I
she worked so hard.
Yeah. I was rooting for Baylor. And I like Gina Auriemma and UConn and stuff like that.
And as good as Baylor is, as incredibly good as Baylor is, I will always take UConn out of the tournament, especially
absolutely
with a girl with a player like Paige Beckers. I mean, she is unreal, and the fact that we might have to deal with her for another 3 years.
But they're going to have to deal with Haley Van Lith for another 3 years.
Absolutely.
Okay? So, you've got weapons, we've got weapons too.
Sure.
Okay.
No, look, the future's bright. Beckers is
she's
quite
special.
possibly. Could be National Player of the Year.
Did you see that name, image, and likeness report that said that Haley Van Lith's value on her NIL would be in around $1 million right now?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She's got like 250,000 Instagram followers, and whenever they said the value of a tweet,
man,
she could just put Rotel Chili's in a tweet, she could make some money. It's the first thing I could think of. Why is that the first thing I can think of? Why is the Rotel chili brand the first thing I thought of?
Dude, it's
like Stay Puft Marshmallow.
You have a list of reads in front of you. You could have said any of our sponsors, and you were like, she could just slap that Rotel chili into a tweet, and she would just be printing money. And you could have said Buff City Soap. You could have said Goomer and Company, and you're just like, she could put Chef Boyardee in a tweet.
She would be printing money, but I thought that was super interesting.
But that's what people don't understand is it's not just. I don't care if you don't care about women's basketball and you don't think that she's, like, how could they possibly be worth this much money? That's the beauty of name, image, and likeness, is that a lot of these players have their own thing going on on the side.
Well, that's the thing.
They have she built an Instagram following while she was a prospect.
Yeah, and so many of these,
she should be able to monetize that at this point.
This report that came out, and I'm off the cuff here, so I'm not going to get it accurate.
Watch out, Mark's off the cuff.
But the report was that of the college athletes that had the highest value, there was a large percentage of those athletes who were female. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's a lot of like quarterbacks and basketball players and stuff like that on the list, but larger number of females than you would think. And so when you have this whole conversation of, well, is it going to be equitable for the females or the non-revenue sports and things like that? Well, yeah, if they build up their own,
that's the whole point. They should be
their own platform. Then yes, Haley Van Lith might be probably worth more than Carlik Jones.
Yeah.
And that might not be a ridiculous thing to say when you compare their social media platforms. Now, obviously, Carlik Jones is going to be on ESPN more. He's going to be, he's going to get more, FaceTime with primetime. But she developed this platform on her own, which I think is super interesting, as a whole economic idea.
Well, pay-per-view. I said like papal. Pay-per-view.
What is wrong with us today?
I don't know. People view name, image, and likeness very narrowly a lot of times when they talk about it. And they just think of like, well, how much would a car dealership pay, the Texas quarterback? And how would this possibly be equitable?
Right.
And there's some concerns there. And that's, and they look at the non-revenue sports and they say, well, how is this going to help them at all? Well, this is the answer. You need to broaden your view of it a little bit and realize that players in all sports have the ability to make money online. They have the ability to monetize their social media following. There's a lot more going on than just like the straight traditional advertiser pay player.
You're in a commercial.
Yeah, advertiser pay player to endorse product. It goes much broader than that.
To your point, Haley Van Lith could advocate for, to get your hearing checked. She could be in that ad. She could put it on Instagram. Seamless. And it could be Louisville Family Audiology, and you could put it on your list. You get your eyes checked, you get your teeth cleaned, you go to the dentist, you get your hearing checked. Louisville Family Audiology will do that for you. They give you a comprehensive and complimentary hearing evaluation. I did that, and it really is good to kind of know, because you don't recognize hearing loss for 5 years. During that time, your brain changes. And so you want to know the second you start losing your hearing so that you can fix it. It's totally treatable. The people at Louisville Family Audiology have a variety of ways to help you, retain the hearing that you have and to utilize what you have in the most optimal way. It can, if you don't treat your hearing loss, it can lead to dementia. Like it can lead to other brain, down the road things, because your brain is having to, basically work a part of it that, isn't necessarily used for hearing. So you want to begin to, develop that, get your hearing checked every single year. The people over there at Louisville Family Audiology will take care of you. Dave and I will talk to Dr. Klein on the other side. I'm excited to talk to him about that. I had my COVID shot yesterday, my first one. My arm is super sore, and I want to know how long that's going to last. On the other side here on ESPN 680, 105.7, and 93.9 The Ville.
You're listening to the Diener Show podcast. Check out Drew weekdays from 7 until 10 only on ESPN 680 and online at espnlouisville.com.
You're listening to The Diener Show, presented by OPC Pest Services on ESPN 680, 105.7, and 93.9 The Ville. Now, here's Mark Blankenbaker.
And Biggest Biscuit, also known as Dave Skull.
All right, welcome back. Mark Blankenbaker, Dave Skull. Visit the Kroger app and you'll get the fresh you want with delivery or free pickup on orders of $35 or more. Plus, you'll find more ways to save on the fresh you love with personalized coupons, weekly sales, rewards like fuel points, and more. Restrictions apply. Kroger, fresh for everyone. And we'll bring in Dr. Klein like we do each week at 8:30 on Tuesdays. Dr. Klein, welcome into the Diener Show, buddy.
Hey, it's good to be with you, too.
Absolutely. And Dr. Klein, I got my first vaccine yesterday. I got
Wonderful.
the Pfizer vaccine. I woke up this morning with an arm that was incredibly sore, and I was feeling a little lethargic, but I'm feeling better as the show goes on. How long should I expect, those two little side effects that I'm getting there?
So I also had the Pfizer vaccine. I woke up with a sore arm. It was like, can I lift my arm?
Yeah,
you know?
It's tough right now.
And within 24 hours, it was down to just barely a nagging soreness, but had full mobility, full motion of the arm, and by 48 hours, the arm soreness was gone. Some people may go a little shorter. I know some people that didn't have any arm soreness at all, and then I know some people it took 3, almost 4 days. But it should be gone for the most part by tomorrow. And
as somebody who had COVID, is this happening to me a little worse than other people, or am I like about the same? Does it matter? I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to be here in about 24 hours.
There are, as you know, there are some reports in the medical literature that it looks like people who previously had COVID may have a brisker, that's doctor talk for really difficult, but a brisker reaction to the injections. But that's all human response, as they say, is a bell-shaped curve, and some people have a real difficult time who were previously infected with COVID, and then there are people who just breeze through. If it starts to really get onerous and difficult, I still think that it's perfectly okay for people to go ahead and take some Tylenol, and it'll lighten things up a bit.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Dr. Klein, speaking of those medical journals, with a report came out yesterday. I read about it in the New York Times that says that basically the real world vaccination effectiveness actually helps prevents transmission. Is that an early report? Can we accept that as gospel, or is there any more research that needs to be done on that for Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson?
Well, science and the word gospel are never used in the same sentence. We're always edging stuff, but that's because there are always exceptions. But we now have 2 large studies, one from Israel, one from the United States, and the one that you're talking about was a project and a large number of individuals in the healthcare community, and it was run by the CDC, the Census Department, and something called, I think, the National Bureau of Statistics. Anyway, they found that not only was there that 90% protection, but when you looked at whether that extended or covered transmission of the virus, it really looks like that the 2 RNA vaccines appear to be very good at blocking transmission of the virus. So that's super encouraging. What that tells us is that given the viruses we have today and that were present during these studies, that as we get more and more people vaccinated, not only will the number of sick people go down and the number of people in the hospitals go down and those dying will decrease, but actually the transmission of the virus will begin to decrease among the vaccinated individuals. That still leaves children out because children under the age of 16 don't qualify for the vaccine.
And I know that there are studies right now, kind of covering that very subject. And I know Pfizer's kind of far along in that, and so is Moderna. Do we have a timetable estimate for those 2 for kids, and will the FDA do emergency authorization for kids, or will they have to go through the longer process without emergency use, authorization?
I think that the Pfizer under 12 study just started, and so that means we're a good 3 months away from hearing anything about that, at least. But the 12 to 16-year-old study, I believe, has wrapped up, and that should be analyzed by the Data Monitoring Board and Pfizer, and we should hear something about that in the next month, I think. So then we'll extend it down to 12 years old, And by the time we get that group vaccinated, it'll be time to move on to under 12, and people hopefully will see that it's safe for children under 12, and we'll get going on getting our kids vaccinated. We are vaccinating at a tremendous clip, and I think, this sounds kind of silly, but I think everybody ought to be really proud of this. We have accomplished something that's truly remarkable. We're vaccinating 1% of the country per day.
Wow.
And so that's 3.4 million people every day, and we did that over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. So this is the way we're supposed to be doing things. I always compare this to my father's generation in World War II. That they geared up to build these large container ships or large cargo ships called Liberty ships, and they built one ship every 3 days. So
wow.
This is what we're capable of doing. So I'm very proud of what everyone's doing here.
And given the current rate, will we reach a point where, like, if another vaccine is approved, will we need it here, or is it one of those things where is the AstraZeneca vaccine is that going to be used in the United States, or do you think that'll be just used elsewhere, or will we need that to kind of fill in the gaps?
I think we may need it to fill in the gaps, simply because it's essentially refrigerator shelf stable, and so in some settings the AstraZeneca will be useful. And like we said last week, the vaccine's good. The communication plan by AstraZeneca, was awful, but the vaccine itself is effective, and so it would be possible that we'll use it. But then again, the production capacity of Pfizer and Moderna is just ramping up tremendously, and it has to, because if we just vaccinate the United States, that isn't going to keep us safe. We're going to have to make sure that the world really gets vaccinated, because if we miss a large population, let's say in outer Mongolia, just to pick on the Mongolians, then that will be a reservoir, that will be a pool for variants that are more aggressive to develop. And so we've really got to make this a worldwide thing, and I think we're finally beginning to do that.
Yeah, and mask mandates are slowly starting to fall around the country, but I just traveled, and what I found, even in states that had lifted the mask mandate, most people were still wearing masks, and a lot of the businesses that I would go in, still required the mask in order to do business with that particular business. I kind of took that as encouraging that, people are still taking personal responsibility, even though, like, their government says you don't necessarily have to wear the mask. But, Indiana is lifting that mask mandate April 6th, but they don't open up everybody until tomorrow. And I just, it's like we're so close. Like, can we just let everybody get vaccinated before you pull that off? I just want to get your opinion on that.
Well, I kind of went on the record last week. I think lifting the mask mandates is not the right thing to do. It's great to hear that people are still masking in the states where it's been lifted, but that will gradually sort of decay and deteriorate.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we're all tired. I spend almost 9 hours a day masked up with very few breaks when I'm rounding in the hospital. And I'm tired of it, but it is effective. And I think if we could just mask for another 4 to 8 weeks, I think it would have a tremendous effect. We're already seeing what you would call the fourth surge. More than half the states have increasing cases, increasing hospitalizations have begun in many of those states. This is going to blow up again. It may be that it blows up in a patchy way this time, because some states are a little further ahead on vaccination, and that includes us. But if I had my druthers, it would be that another 6 to 8 weeks of masking, and I think that would probably get us over the hump. At least that's what I think today.
So, is 6 to 8 weeks, if that happens, is that our spike the football moment? I know that it's there's still going to be some, like you say, some outer reaches, some rural areas, people who resist the vaccine for periods of time. But is that 6 to 8 weeks where we can say we did it?
I think in 6 to 8 weeks, what I would expect is we begin to see falling cases again instead of rising cases. It's time to start thinking about that R null, that replication number, as how many people one case spreads to, and it's a number we haven't used much because we've used incidence numbers and things like that. But we have a good way to know when the viruses drop to a very low level of spread in society, and that's what we need to watch on. And I don't know if that'll be there in 8 weeks, but I suspect it probably will. And so, will that mean we can just, quote, open up? No, it doesn't mean that. But I think, summer baseball, going to the Bats game will come back.
What about the swimming pool?
Drew's not here to ask me about the swimming pool.
Well, that's my job, to make sure that a question gets asked.
I think, going back, to either, community or neighborhood pools, will probably come back. I think, common sense tells you that if there's still a fair amount of virus circulating in the community, that you're going to have a funny tan line from a mask. But I don't think we're going to get rid of the masks for, really, whether it's mandatory or whether it's simply common sense. I don't think that's going to happen, before the fall, if then. It's this is, we're watching and we see right now what this virus is capable of. So we lightened up a little bit because we had dropping cases for 11, 12 weeks. And sure enough, it's rebounding again because the virus seeks out groups of people who are still uninfected and can transmit because they're not wearing masks and because they're not distancing. So I think the masks are going to be with us for a while. I think what you're going to see is people going to baseball games wearing masks, I think the mandatory masks will come back if the flare is bad enough. The governors will, as Governor Beshear says, they'll tap the brakes and they'll say, okay, well, we're going to do masks for the next month, and we'll do a month's worth of masks. I think those are the things that are likely to happen. At least I hope they will. I think we just keep plowing ahead, like some states have. Probably the best example being Florida. You see a lot of cases.
Yeah, you do. I was actually down there when they closed down Miami. I was not in Miami, but I was, we were planning on going to dinner there, and I was like, well, we're not going to dinner there if it's like that. So we canceled, obviously, and just tried to make a decision. We were socially distant the whole time. It was easy to do that where we were. But I do think that people, in some cases, and especially in the younger people that I witnessed, have sort of let their guard down, but like the people who have been on Earth a little longer are being still a little cautious.
I think we're all sort of acting like the way we usually do. I mean, what a shock that that college kids indulge in higher risk behavior. It's been like that. Well, since I was in college.
Forever, yeah.
Longer than we should admit. And the difference is that I think what I would like everyone who's listening to understand is that nationwide we are starting to see hospitalization of young people in that 18 to 40-year-old group. They can get very sick from the virus, and they do get very sick. And it's going to be a problem. The spring break is going to shape up to be a super spreader event because that is not only a super spreader exposure, but it's an exposure of people who have not had access to the vaccines.
Right. Yeah. Well, as somebody, I'm 39, so I'm at the very end of that range, 18 to 40. I went to the hospital. It was not fun. I would not want to ever have COVID again, and I thought I was healthy-ish, and that when I was told I had the virus, I was like, okay, it shouldn't be that bad. It was awful. So I would just let people know, like it can be a really big deal for you, even if you do think you are healthy.
Yeah, it sure can.
All right, Dr. Klein, we'll get you out of there on that. Appreciate it, you coming on each week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, you guys take care. It was good talking with you.
Good talking to you, Dr.
Thanks, Dr.
Klein.
Klein.
Yeah, thank you so much. Always good news. I took the New York Times report yesterday as like really, really good news.
Yeah.
And I think it is. I think that, the medical community is still trying to warn us that we are not as far along as we want to be. There's a lot of good news out there. And, when there's good news, people have a tendency to say, okay, like it's time, we're ready to go. But it's not done. There's still a lot of work to be done. We're doing a great job of vaccinating.
There's a lot of people out there trying to spike the ball at the 10-yard line.
Right.
And it's really frustrating to watch. Like, dude, just hold on for a few more months, and maybe we can all get through this.
Yeah. I got vaccinated in the Southern Indiana hospital yesterday. It was like a assembly line. It was amazing, the efficiency that they've developed over there. And I know that they've done that over there at Louisville Vax, over there at Broadbent Arena and things in other places. And, it's cool to hear like Dr. Klein be like, we are vaccinating like at an incredibly high rate, but we're not done. Indiana doesn't open up to everybody until tomorrow.
And there's a huge portion of the population that just won't get vaccinated, which is why it's incumbent on everybody that is willing to do it to get it done as soon as possible.
Right. Yeah, just to get our numbers to where they need to be as soon as you're eligible, go get it done.
At least we're not like France. I was listening to an NPR piece on it the other day, and it's something like only 40% of the country is willing to take the vaccination.
Is that right?
now. Yeah, the vaccine right now. It's just their skepticism is off the charts, and I'm glad we're not quite at that level. But still, I wish there was a larger portion of the population that was willing to do this.
Right. Well, it's tough to transition to anything like, out of COVID talk, but I do want to tell people about DFH Company. DFH Company has been around here since 1935, doing heating and air conditioning in the city of Louisville. They are not fly-by-night people. They will take care of your heating and cooling problem for your home. And, give them a call. Tell them the Diener Show sent you. Tell them Blankenbaker sent you. DFHcompany.com, 968-6222. The Hinkebine families know exactly what your home will need. We have a Mitsubishi Mini Split here in our studio because we have big, huge windows that, let the sunlight in, and it can get hot. Mitsubishi Mini Split keeps us cool with that sun, and they could do the same thing for your hot to heat or cool room in your house. Over there at DFH Company, give them a call. Mark Blankenbaker, Dave Skull. The Process will be back for the 9 o'clock hour, and we'll do trivia at 9:30 here on the Diener Show on ESPN 680, 93.9 The Ville, and 105.7.
It's tourney time, and Bet Rivers Sportsbook has your game day covered with a mystery offer. Head over to BetRivers.com today. Buzzer beater insurance, profit boost, parlay insurance, and more specials are waiting for you every day of the tournament. All you have to do is log into Bet Rivers today on any tourney game day and see your Mystery Madness special. Go to Bet Rivers and get rewarded all tournament long. Go to BetRivers.com today or download the Bet Rivers app. Your hometown sportsbook, Bet Rivers Sportsbook, BetRivers.com. 21 and located in Indiana. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. 1-800-994-8448.
Make your life better with a new job at UPS. Join Team Louisville as a warehouse worker. Earn $14.50 per hour in an essential job, plus get money for college. Search and apply now at upsjobs.com/Louisville. That's upsjobs.com/Louisville.